Our guest today is Arlene Cohen Miller, and we'll be talking about bringing less stress, more patience, kindness, contentment, and joy into your life. Arlene has a wealth of experience to help you create the life that just works for you. She knows all about the joys and challenges of being a working mother with businesses demanding at the same time a lot of time and attention. Welcome to our show, Arlene.
Thank you for having me. I'm really grateful to be here today.
Arlene, what does work-life balance mean to you? Bearing in mind that that term sometimes seems to be overused.
Yeah, it does seem to be overused, and I think it's individual for each person. It's important. I think there's so many stressors in the world today. You have work to do, you have to take care of your family, you have friends, you have a life, you have maybe a partner, and it seems like so much is happening at once, plus all the stress of just living in the world today. It's a pretty crazy world right now. And so I think it's really something that's really personal to everybody. Sometimes we're in a job that it's just too much and we maybe have to downgrade a little bit, or we just have to have maybe a tribe that helps us to raise our child. There's all sorts of things that we can do to bring that balance and harmony into our lives. And so what I think it's really important, I believe as a coach, that anyone that I work with has the answers inside of themselves. And it's not my job to tell them. It's my job to hold like a space of non-judgment and unconditional love so that we can explore together what works for them. So work-life balance is individual. It's like when you get to that place where it's just more of an feeling. And in the way that things work today, everything's always changing. So we really need to also work with being adaptable and flexible, because as things change all the time in our lives, we have to be able to sort of go with the flow and modify that balance and harmony that works for us in our lives, and be willing to adapt and make changes. So I don't know if that helps her a lot, but for me, it's not just work-life balance, it's work-life balance and harmony.
Mm. Now, the workplace has changed a lot, especially since COVID, where the lines between home time and working time have become kind of merged, and there's no clear differentiation now. Where's my time for work? Where's my time for family and free time?
That's very, very true. And I mean, there's all sorts of like life hacks and mom hacks and stuff out there that can help people, to sort of set up a space that's just your workspace and set aside that time that works for you. As a coach, I prefer to work from the inside out, because all those things on the outside are there that people can use to sort of create boundaries and have that space set up so that they don't feel impinged, and they can have a little bit of separation between their work and their life and have more balance and harmony. But what often happens is that we really need to work from the inside out. How is a person feeling on the inside? Are they overwhelmed? Are they anxious? Are they stressed? How can they release that kind of stuff so that they approach life with more peace and contentment inside? Because I'm sure you're aware that when we feel that kind of calm assurance inside, and we're not all flustered, and we're not all, looking at our to-do list and going crazy, it's a lot more easy just to get things done. Things flow, things happen more easily and flow through us. And instead of maybe taking 3 hours to do, it's maybe a half an hour because of how we feel inside.
Mm. What are the typical signs of being overwhelmed?
Well, maybe you don't know that where you live now, but a really key indicator is to check in with how am I breathing? Because when we're overwhelmed, we start breathing very shallow from the high chest. Maybe we're even holding our breath a little bit, and that physiologically puts us into fight or flight response. We're also having all those thoughts in our head about, oh my God, I have all this stuff to do. And we don't say I'm so overwhelmed. You're just like freaked out. How we talk to ourselves when things get to be too much. I'm sort of modeling that behavior for you now, if you can feel it. So it's really pretty clear. And sometimes it's so a part of who a person is, they don't even see it in themselves. So part of coaching, or if I'm working with them as a mentor, is like to get them to really become aware of how they feel. So they know when they're beginning to go into that, oh my gosh, this is too much, I'm going to fall down a deep, dark hole place, and have something in place to begin to stop that and let it go and come back to their center.
Yes, a lot seems to be the expectation a person has to the self. We want to achieve something, or we have a particular objective that we want to achieve, don't have the confidence, or the world out there seems just to be too overwhelming to comply with that inner image of oneself.
Well, there's a lot in there. There's two parts to your question. One is the expectations, and one is turning our inner critic into an inner coach. And so, with those expectations, I find a lot of people do to themselves. I used to do this to myself. I'd have a to-do list that was enough for like a week. This is just not kind, because then we're going to be that place of, I have to get all this stuff done today and really know how to create our priorities. Otherwise we're just setting ourselves up for failure. And to be kinder to ourselves, because it's just not kind, because expectations are really judgments, and it's better just to say, okay, what do I actually have to get done today? What's like the top 2 or 3 things that I get done? I can feel really proud of myself.
Yes, I think that inner coach is really important, because the inner critic, I think, is such a huge stumbling block.
Yeah, it really is. And we sort of take that on from our parents or from our teachers and from our peer group as we're growing up. And we learn that how to criticize ourselves inside. And, I don't blame our parents. They just taught us and worked with us in a way that they were raised. And so they maybe thought that criticizing us and, not letting our head get too big was a way to protect us and keep us humble, or to prepare us, if other people were criticizing us in the world, it wouldn't hurt so bad. But none of that is really true. And, like they were just doing the best that they could. It's not a place of blame, but we can really start working with our inner coach. And I guess the first step is something that you sort of is underneath of what you've asked, is we need to become aware. How am I actually talking to myself? When I was young and I started to work with this, maybe, over 25 years ago, I was totally oblivious with how I was talking to myself. I didn't realize I was calling myself stupid and an idiot all the time. And you can't do that, this, and you'll never do that. We think it's a part of us, but it's just this pattern and program that we've taken on to stay safe as a kid.
And that
Yeah.
becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I don't deserve this, especially.
Yeah. It's the law of attraction. What we focus on is what we get more of in our lives. So if we're focusing on what an idiot we are and all the times we mess up, instead of saying, okay, this mistake is an opportunity to learn and grow, I can learn and grow from this. We're just telling the universe we want to have, more mistakes and more disasters or whatever in our life as a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I agree with you 100%.
How do you deal with the inner critic?
Well, there's lots of ways to deal with the inner critic. The first step, of course, is the awareness, because when we're aware of what we're doing, we can do something with it. And we need to become really cognizant that this is not who I am. It's just a pattern and program that I have put in place, and I can choose something new. So one of the ways, as we become aware that, oh my gosh, I'm talking to myself with that negative voice again, we can stop. We can just say, hey, that's not who I am. And I wonder how I could do things differently the next time, or how I could do things this time if we caught it soon enough. And then we can feel and visualize that same situation or a similar situation where we feel worthy, where we're acting in a positive manner, where we're talking to ourselves in an uplifting way, and visualize and feel that. And we start to create a foundation for ourselves that is the new.
I want to get back to this feeling of humility, which we just mentioned earlier on, which is often misunderstood. Humility doesn't mean to lower oneself. It just means being honest to oneself.
Yeah. And, it's really not even a bad thing to be humiliated, because that can really help us to evolve and grow. That's sort of our inner conscience at work saying, hey, wait a minute, we need to change something here. But humility is like, it's like we're acknowledging how far we've come and how far we have to go. And humility is kind of that place in the center where we're not looking down upon ourselves, and we're not lifting ourselves up and to be some great person that we're not. We're just actually loving and accepting ourselves as we are, all our bright, shiny bits and the bits that aren't shiny, and just accepting that. We don't have to love the behavior, but we're loving and accepting ourselves.
Ultimately, we all on the path. We human beings, and we do make mistakes.
Lots of them all the time, which is
Yeah.
why, actually, I look at it that, I'm here to make mistakes. And that's a way that's my opportunity to learn and grow. And if you look at the way that most inventors, most people who've made a really big difference in the world, they've fallen flat on their face more times than we have even tried because they had a whole different perspective of it. And if we view these mistakes as not something to beat ourselves up with, but wow, how can I learn and grow from this? How can I do it differently next time? It's more about love.
Loving oneself with all edges and all the shadow aspects of personality.
Yeah, because we can love and accept ourselves for everything that we've done and been. We don't have to condone the behavior. The behaviors are things that we're trying to change, but we can still love our whole self. Because my sort of way of looking at it, if I had a good friend who made a mistake or had a failure, I wouldn't stop loving them because of it. I might not like some of their behavior. I might talk to them about that if it needed a discussion, but I would always love them. So we just need to transfer that to ourselves.
Let's talk a bit about purpose and meaning in what you are doing. Like a person would face obstacle after obstacle and still continue on this path, facing all the more obstacles. Whereas and see that as a learning process. I do want to do this and march through irrespective of the challenges ahead. And the other person would say, I seem to have so many obstacles. This is obviously not the path I have to follow. I have to go a different path.
Well, I can't answer that for the person. They really have to feel into their own hearts knowing about what is the path for them. Lots of times I find that when I am on path and I am stepping forward, there's a lot of counterintention out there because there's a lot of people that have gone to sleep. Their heart's not awake and they don't know what's going on in the world. And so I sometimes just visualize myself as a salmon swimming upstream. I had the gift of being in Alaska one time when they were swimming upstream to spawn. Oh my God, it's amazing. And so, it could be either way for the person. And I'm not going to know that for them. Maybe as a coach, I could ask questions and they could feel into their own hearts knowing and make a decision that they need to have a different path. And sometimes it's just like the universe saying, do you want to do this? Do you really want to do this? Do you really want to do this? And you just have to keep on stepping forward.
And sometimes we are so blind to what I call the whispers from the universe out there, maybe coming through the voice of another person, giving us some good advice, and we simply don't hear that advice.
Because the ego talks with like a boom horn or whatever you call those things, and spirit talks with a soft whisper, and spirit doesn't even talk. It's a feeling inside of ourselves. And you are so right. Maybe you open a book and you see something there, or you see something online and it speaks to you, or someone says something to you and it's like it's a lighthouse, and it's like that's how the wisdom's being that's coming to you, to really help you move forward.
I've had that a lot in my life when I was in a stressful situation. I was kind of in a tunnel vision. I didn't see left or right. And as soon as I spent longer periods in nature, doing my walks, often lasting several weeks, I began to hear these whispers. As you say,
Yeah.
sometimes coming through a word I would be reading on a billboard or overhearing a conversation
Yeah.
where
Well,
I'd have this aha effect, wow, that is something I didn't see.
yeah, well, that's so cool because Mother Nature is so healing. She's like an energy and she's filled with so much light and love that if we go out there and partake in her and we connect with her, all those things that you're sharing, happen. And so that's always a great way for people to activate their inner coach and to de-stress. Just go out in nature for a little bit. She's so gorgeous. And it really is tremendously healing. She
She
is.
she is definitely, and we know from there's this lovely research by the University of Barcelona, a study done some years ago that spending time in the green and blue spaces of nature actually reduces your stress hormones significantly.
Or for me, I'll just, if it's sometimes it feels like, there's still a lot of people in Colorado. There's is space around us and there's walking space right next to me. But if I just drive, 25 minutes up in the mountains and I'm at a higher altitude and there's less people and there's less electromagnetic radiation, all of a sudden you just get this quiet space. And yeah, that's one way that I really like to connect when I can.
What does a supporting family network, supporting friendships, community play in all this?
Oh, it's so important. I strongly feel that in the age we're in, the age of Aquarius, it's an age of when we come together with like-minded souls with common things in mind that we want to step forward with. It's a community that's based on love and support. It's so much easier to move forward together, and it's really wonderful to connect with those like-minded souls in any way you can. You might have to look around to groups online. You might find people on the ground, but I feel it's critically important, and that the lone wolf stuff really doesn't work as well anymore. We do much better in groups of like-minded souls with a common purpose and values to step forward together.
Hmm. Hmm. I don't know what it's like in the United States, but in many of our European cities, we're having a huge problem with loneliness. In the major cities, there's about 60 to 70% of people living in single households. And we now know that this is playing a huge role in depression, in mental health.
I don't know, there's always going to be groups in the community that you can reach out to and connect with, or even start your own. I would just say look to all the resources, I don't know, get to know your friends and neighbors. I don't have any smart, quick answer because I don't live in Europe and I don't really know what the connections are. There are lots of meetup groups, but it's not the same meeting people online as it is in person. I do run a meetup group that goes every week that's more about transformational healing, and I do attract people from, you know, around the US and also Australia quite a bit. That is helpful for people, especially if they don't have time for that other connection. So I'm not saying don't do that, but it is also lovely to find people to do things with.
I think it was one of the famous coaches, Tony Robbins, I think, who said that spending time with your closest associates, the five people you are most closely associated with, really determine who you are.
Absolutely. The five or six most important people in your life, or it could be even a thing. It could be like if you're a love footy, as they call it in Australia, or football here, and that's your deal. You're going to be energetically connected with all footballers. So, that's a big deal. So you really want to pay attention to the people that are really influencing you, that are connecting with you. And, sometimes it could even be someone in history that you just feel a great affinity with, and their works and their teachings and stuff like that. But it does shape who we are. So we really have to be discerning and aware of who we let into our inner circle.
I agree absolutely, especially setting a boundary to people who emanate negativity, and we having a lot of that online at the moment.
Yes. Yes. And so when it comes to that, we can easily take on the negativity of others. And I guess one of the things that I do teach is that we can cut cords with them. Because if anytime someone thinks of you, you think of them, or there's they make some sort of comment towards you online, you're energetically connected to them. And
Mhm.
so you can just like envision like a golden cylinder coming down around your body, cutting those energetic cords. And you might have to do it a lot because there are a lot of people out there who like to dump in our energy field if we have a higher vibration than them, or to suck our positive energy. And, that's not okay. So it's important to be really discerning. If we start to have that interaction online or something happens and we feel, like worse, we need to cut those energetic cords. And if it comes back, keep on doing it until it stops.
I think that's an important topic you just touched on, because as you move onto a higher vibrational level, there will be people with a lower vibration who will want to attach to your higher vibration. And they sometimes do that by dumping negativity onto you.
Yeah, right. And it takes a while. Some of them, I've had it happen to me, and I didn't even notice. One of my friends mentioned to me, she said, "You see how that person leaned in when you were having that conversation? She was connecting with you. She was sucking your energy." And I've really had to become more aware of that. And, if we feel it happening, then we can cut those energetic cords. I mean, another thing that we can do is work with the universal violet flame because some of our energetic connections cannot be cut, like with any sexual partner with our genetic family. And we can ask the violet flame to sweep through those energetic connections. And another thing we can do is that because we're in a physical body, we are connected to the mind of humanity. And every day I sweep the mind of humanity with the violet flame. I just call it forth and visualize it because otherwise we're being impacted by everything everyone thinks consciously, subconsciously, or unconsciously. And we're also being impacted by our genetic family. And there's a lot of worry in my genetic family. It's like, oh my goodness. And also by the people that we've had relationships with. And, even the best of us have a bad hair day moment or something like that where we've been triggered. And that's why it's really important to keep our energy field as clean as possible.
I agree absolutely because the external world out there has become so globalized. In the past, we had our village, our small community, and we didn't know about a war in the Middle East that was far away. And now it's something that we hear about daily, especially if we listen to the news. Our whole mind and body gets infused with this negativity.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of energy out there that wants to cause us to go into fear and contract and be small. And so that's why I mentioned the salmon swimming upstream before. We need to have a lot of self-determination, tenacity, willingness to endure, and to keep moving forward to embody love, to embody light. Otherwise we're going to just be dragged into the undercurrent. And that's just the way it is on the planet right now. And that's why it's so important to surround ourselves with like-minded souls, like you were talking about.
Let's talk about you coming from the yoga and meditation world. How can we use yoga and meditation to boost our vibrational energy?
Well, I'll go to meditation first, because a lot of people think, well, I can't sit quietly. And there's so many different ways to meditate. A beginning way is just to work with our breath. And it might be as simple as breathing in through the nose, breathing out through the nose, and having the out breath longer than the in breath so that we are telling ourselves it's okay to relax and release and let go. And we can do that sitting quietly. We can do that walking in nature. We can do that. We can even sometimes listen to inspirational music and just really be fully present with it and have a more of a meditative release kind of experience. So and there's, of course, there's walking meditations when your eyes are open in nature and you're really appreciating, all that nature has to offer. You're not doing a power walk through it. So I think it's important for people to know that you can you can feel healthier, happier, more vibrant, more grounded, and fully present. You don't have to necessarily sit still and be absolutely quiet and not move anything. There's all kinds of ways that we can to let go and feel differently.
How important is meditation at the beginning of your day and at the end of your day?
Well, I think it's important if we can, I think it's important to make time. And I think that if you're beginning a practice, we need to be kind and patient with ourselves. It might be really huge just to sit there for 5 minutes and be with ourselves at the beginning to begin to have a practice than to say, oh, I have to sit here for a half an hour or whatever we need to do. And we also need to be, flexible. And, sometimes for me, I just get up super early because that's when it's quiet outside and there's not a lot of energy and stuff. And same when it's later at night. So it is important to have that quiet time. And I also feel like at nighttime it's a great place to do some breath work and really review our day, maybe see where we can do better with our inner coach or something that happened and feel and visualize, how could I do that better next time that's more in line with who I truly am.
I had the Zen teacher David Reinig on this show a couple of weeks ago, and he said I advise people to start with just 5 minutes or just 3 minutes, and then to gradually extend that time of solitude.
Because you have to work with how people are, and if it's too overwhelming and seems to be too much, people won't try. But once they begin to see the benefits of, wow, I feel really different after 5 minutes. I just focused on the breath work, And, that I feel different, so if we try it in increments and we have that little bit of success, we're much more likely to do something that's sustaining. It's the same thing if you're going to become a runner. You just don't go out there and run a marathon. You might sort of jog and walk around the block the first time.
Yeah, I think this is where a lot of visionary work goes wrong. We try to do too much at once, and it's just like trying to run a marathon after the first week. I think the small incremental steps are crucial.
Yeah. And as we do that, it's really important to acknowledge our success along the way. Acknowledge myself for sitting there for 3 minutes and doing whatever I could do and celebrating those little successes, and not think that we have to wait for some big goal or project to be there,
Mm.
because that's again working with the law of attraction. That's going to create more of that uplifting feeling in our life. And that's about also being that inner coach.
Mhm. Let's talk about yoga, doing body work. Where does that come into play?
Well, I love yoga, so I don't want to put down anyone who has something else that they love to do. I sort of fell into it, I don't know, over 22 years ago when I really hurt myself running. I love to run outside in Colorado, but that didn't work anymore. And I just find that as a community, when I go to my yoga school and I'm doing a practice with a group of fellow yogis, and you're doing the breath work and we're moving together, and sometimes we're listening to music, and it just it just seems to be like a revitalization on all levels, because you have the body, you have the mind, you have the heart, you have the whole team coming together as one, doing the best we can do together. And I love it. And there's all different kinds of yoga practices. I tend to gravitate towards some more physical ones. That's just me, but there's yin yoga, there's all sorts of yogas that can fit any kind of, whatever you need for your body and for your mind and for yourself.
Mm. Yes, I come very much from the Tai Chi, which I've practiced for many years, and I do the walking in nature, of course. But I love some of the yoga sequences just to start the day with some of those lovely stretchings,
Yeah.
just to get the body energies moving.
And any kind of yoga you want to see is on YouTube for free. So you can sort of cruise around and see what you like, ask your friends what they do, what they recommend. But any kind of yoga, from, really, really simple 5 or 10 or 15 minutes to an hour and a half or whatever it is, you can find whatever you want.
Mhm. What about nutrition, eating the right foods?
Oh, it's critical. As a recovering sugar addict, I will affirm that sugar is not a good thing, and the more we eat, the more addictive it is. And so I really focus on, what my body needs to, what feels best for me. I just know that the healthier I eat for myself personally, and I know that different kind of programs work for different people. I'm not going to advocate anything specifically. I just really think that sugar is way overrated. If you begin to feel different, if for me, like when I eat correctly, I don't have any arthritis in my thumbs. I don't have any sort of digestive things that are going on in my midriff. It just feels like my body's in harmony with the rest of all that I am. And so, yeah, there's lots of stuff, different, theories and stuff out there, but I think it's super duper important.
Mhm. I didn't pay much attention to nutrition at all until I had some physical issues and started changing my diet. And I felt, such a different level of energy just by being more conscious and aware to what I eat.
And it's when we eat and how we feel when we eat, and, taking the time to really enjoy our food. That's a meditative experience as well. We really sit and enjoy every bite of our food, and we're not, distracting and walking around, and we're really in fully present with it. We have a much more satisfying experience with what we're putting into our body. And the love that we put into our food, if we love our food as we're making it, it also makes a huge difference for how we feel as well.
Mm. Arlene, most of our listeners are women. In your introduction, you had this challenge that many women do face, caring for family and having a business on the side. What advice would you give to women, especially?
Stop feeling guilty. You know, Self care is so important and self love is so important. And it's, we scroll on social media and can waste 45 minutes of our time. We can make time to take care of ourselves. It's so important. And, sometimes I just encourage my clients, just sit with yourself. What would you look like and what would you be like 5 years from now if you don't do any of the self-care, the exercise, the food that you eat, the little things that really, pick you up, whether it's getting a massage or getting out in nature. How would you be if you did none of those things for yourself? And how would it be if you just did even 20 minutes every day of self-care? Because we really have the time for whatever we choose to make the time for. And I find that if you fill yourself up with love, and taking care of yourself is filling yourself up with love, you're going to have a lot more love to give to the people that you love, and you're going to be able to accomplish things more easily because you don't feel so horrible on so many different levels, physically, emotionally, and mentally, and even spiritually. Because that self-love that we fill ourselves up with is going to be shared with others. If we don't fill our own cup with love, how can we possibly give it to others?
That I think is crucial in your message. If we don't fill our own cup, we have nothing to give. The more we fill our own cup, the more we can give, and especially also very important for people in the care industry who have a lot to give to other people. I'm looking at nurses, for instance, or people
Yeah.
working in old age homes.
Yeah. Even people who are airline stewardesses or stewards, whatever the name is for, when you're constantly serving people and some people are abusive, that's where that cord cutting and clearing is important. That's where all that self-care and self-love is important. We really have to be extra vigilant when we're in those kind of professions.
Mm. Arlene, how can people connect with you?
Well, if you're in the United States, my phone is 720-936-2634, and my website is Jewel Consultancy. I'm sure you'll put it in the header or whatever. You give them all those links and stuff like that. I'd be happy to text or chat with you if you have any questions. This is a short time, and maybe you have something that is pressing that you'd like to know. Just give me a buzz, and I will make time for you.
Yes, we'll post those links in the show notes below. I want to acknowledge you, Arlene, for the work you do. I think it's important in our age of so much negativity to put a positive counterweight to what we are seeing all over the world at the moment, and to boost the light energy, the frequency of love, compassion, and empathy. And
Yeah.
I want to encourage you to continue your good work.
Thank you. And I want to say to everybody that every time you do something where you work with your inner coach or you do something to love yourself, you're stepping in there too to be a bright light as well. And it does make a difference.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much for being on our show, Arlene.
Thank you for having me.